What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to the full history of the Banished pre-Halo Infinite by the GOAT of Halo videos, HiddenXperia. If you haven't checked his channel out, I will leave a link down below to this video. Please go over there, give it a like, a subscribe, and all that good stuff, because he genuinely has the best channel on YouTube when it comes to Halo content. So please go over there and give it a good old like and all that good stuff. So we've reacted to the Halo Wars 2 cutscene, so we know a little bit of the origin. I'm wondering if he goes into a little bit more depth, because I know how much he knows about the lore of Halo. It's pretty impressive. So maybe there's some bits there that I don't know about. But the video is about 23 minutes long, so I'm sure he goes on a little bit further than that. I'm sure he talks about the expansions of Halo Wars 2, maybe, because I haven't watched them cutscenes yet. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. But we're so close to Halo Infinite coming out. This week, we should be cracking on with Halo 5, finishing that. We're so close to finishing it. And then we've played all of the main core Halo games prior to Halo Infinite. And we're ready to play it. And we're going to be playing Halo Infinite all the way through, 100% completing it on the hardest difficulty. We're going to try anyway. Alright, with that being said, let's shut up, let's pop this up, and let's have a cheeky peek. That's a cool intro. That's a really cool intro. I don't know who we got to do that, but it's a cool intro.
Hey guys, welcome back. With Halo Infinite and, by the looks of it, the return of the Banished on the horizon, I felt it was finally time to dedicate an entire video to Atriox and this band of merry men.
When did this come out, actually? When did this come out? June 2020. I'm wondering if there's any more lore since then that has come out, like anything prior to Halo Infinite, like a build up to Halo Infinite, where they've maybe released some bits and bobs, because I know a lot of games do that. They've released like comics, and there's been a few books that have been Halo books that have been released since then. So I wonder if there's anything new that is not in this video. Let me know in the comments if that's the crack.
And so today, we're going to go through the entire known history of the Banished. Since Halo Wars 2, there's actually been a fair amount of expansion on both their lore and their history that I think a lot of people probably will have missed. And so today, I'm going to cover all of it for your viewing pleasure.
Perfect.
However, before we start, I have quite a special shout out to give. It's something that I think you guys are going to absolutely love.
Okay.
Now, you know that I don't normally do this type of thing, but recently I was contacted by Halo VFX, which is a channel who are making their own short fan miniseries.
What?
Operation Charity Falls. But it's unlike any fan project I've ever seen before.
What?
What you're watching on the screen right now isn't a blur cutscene. That's their miniseries. That's it.
Is that legit?
It tells the tale of Fireteam Kilo, who...
Is that legit? I might have to check that out.
Are deployed to the crash site of High Charity to extract a Covenant artifact from within the vessel. However, an extreme flood threat is imminent.
Oh my.
If you like what you're seeing so far and you'd like to support them more, then I've linked their channel, their Instagram, and also their Patreon down in the description below. I have a feeling this is going to be a fan project that you are not going to want to miss. The overall level of quality with what we've seen so far is honestly like on par with Blur's Halo 2 and Halo Wars 2 cutscenes, and I imagine it's only going to get better from there, so definitely go and check them out. But
let me know in the comments if you want me to check that out, because that looks pretty damn cool. That looks amazing.
Anyways, let's get on with the show. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, or feel an increasingly strong urge to join an alien mercenary faction, then don't forget to leave a like, hit that big old red sub button, and journey into the howling abyss. And follow me Twitch. But actually, return this time, please. And let's kick off today's lore.
Let's do this.
So, as promised, let's start from the top. Why did Atriox splinter off from the Covenant and create the Banished in the first place? Well,
he was fed up of their shit. That's what he was. He was like, I'm done with these people. I'm creating my own little faction, and we're going to take over the universe. And he nearly did that. Or he's still doing that in Halo Infinite.
It's quite a depressing story, quite honestly.
It is depressing.
The Covenant used Atriox's clan time after time after time again as essentially expendable metal. They'd be thrown at fortified human positions to break their line and allow the other Covenant troops to follow up, but in doing so, a staggeringly high percentage of them would fall in battle. essentially acting as involuntary sacrifices for the rest of the Covenant. Think of them as the Prophet's own personal entry fraggers, as morbid as that might sound. However, watching his brothers be ordered to their certain death time after time again when there were clear alternate methods of engagement that could have been used, like glassing beams, began to wear Atriox thin. It was like their leaders were emptying a hypothetical magazine of brutes into their enemy. Even when victory was assured, they still sent wave after wave of his brutes at the remaining human gun emplacements and trenches, almost as if they wanted blood and they didn't care who it came from.
Yeah, no wonder. I mean, it's like I said when I was watching the Halo Wars 2 cutscenes, it's kind of hard not to root for him after such a sad intro, right? I'm sure there's some stuff that's going to make me go, oh, no, I don't like them. But, like, it's understandable why they turned against the Covenant, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like, I get it. Like, I think I would have done the same.
Their enemy or their supposed allies. But after returning as the only survivor of these suicide operations numerous times, the Covenant leadership began to grow anxious about Atriox. He was beginning to inspire hope and leadership in the brutes who were merely meant to be pawns for the Prophets, something that could potentially lead to an outbreak of heresy. And so, an elite, codenamed the Executioner, who led many of the operations that Atriox had somehow survived, was sent by the Prophet to assess the situation, and his discovery set in motion the creation of the Banished.
The Executioner, that's a really cool name. Also, have you noticed he's got one of them red swords, kind of like the bounty hunter that we've seen in the trailer for Halo Infinite. The Spartan hunter guy. Remember that guy? It's got the same color sword.
Atriox's belief in the Great Journey and the Prophets was beginning to waver. While they were preaching righteousness, all he was seeing were his brothers dying before his eyes.
Yeah.
His loyalty to the hierarchs was all but broken, and so the Executioner was ordered to put an end to this problematic brute, but without making him a martyr. And so he was sent on what they thought would be one final suicide mission. But once again, he returned the only survivor, but now also a heretic too, after killing one of his own brothers in self-defense after he tried to kill Atriox for his now heretical views.
Interesting.
When he returned to the camp, bloody and beaten, the Executioner was just about to put an end to him once and for all. But Atriox did something that no member of the Covenant had ever done before. He resisted. And his fellow brutes followed suit, overthrowing the elites who led them and formally establishing the Banished sometime around 2549.
That's really cool. I don't blame him. I get it. I get it. So that's kind of what we know from Halo Wars cutscene, right? That's pretty much all we know. Well, actually, and the fact that in Halo Wars they got taken off in that little piece of the ring, which was really cool. It was a really cool cutscene. The Halo Wars 2 cutscenes are like unbelievably good.
Early on, Atriox made a point to both his second-in-command, Decimus, and to all who joined the Banished that they do so purely out of their own will. No longer would any species be treated merely as tools like they were under the Covenant. The warriors who follow Atriox will do so because they know and trust him to fight whoever it takes to ensure their freedom.
But he also does hire bounty hunters, though, because I think it's actually this cutscene he might talk about right here, where he says, show me your worth, your pay. So he hires people as well. It's not just loyalists.
Early years of the Banished were relatively uneventful in the grand scheme of things. They looted Covenant supply ships to bolster their armada and managed to convince some members of the Covenant to join their cause, Letvalir, the shipmaster of the Enduring Conviction, being one of them.
That's cool.
However, following the destruction of the Covenant, being the only faction to ever stand up to them, the Banished began to make a violent name for themselves among the other rival Covenant splinter factions across the galaxy, leading to a failed assassination attempt. Following the Great Schism, the Silent Shadow, who were an elite group of Spec Ops elites who specialized in assassination, dedicated their lives to hunting down and massacring what remained of the brutes.
I wonder if that's maybe one of these guys turned to the Banished, and he's the Spartan bounty hunter guy in Infinite, maybe. Because you look at the swords and look at the armor, it's kind of similar, isn't it, really?
And one squad found their way aboard Atriox's personal corvette, the Elegy's Lament. At first, it was looking to be quite a mundane assassination operation for the team. However, using his exceptional persuasive abilities, Atriox managed to not only convince the elites to betray their leader, but also to formally ally the entirety of the Silent Shadow.
Look at that smile. Look at that smile.
With the Banished.
Wow.
Giving them their most deadly allies yet.
Wow.
However, it wasn't until 2559 that their power as a faction would be truly tested.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to bloat this video out with like a 30-minute breakdown of Halo Wars 2's story, because most of you have probably either played the game yourself or at the very least watched the cutscenes, so...
This guy just knows, doesn't he? He just knows. Man, I love this channel. He just knows. We know, we've seen the cutscenes. We don't have to watch everything. You don't have to go over it again.
You know the gist of it, so I'll keep this part of the Banished's history brief. Sometime in early 2559, which is a few months after the end of Halo 5, the Banished made their way to the...
A few months after? Just a few months? So maybe that Guardian we saw at the end of Halo Wars 2 is the same Guardian from Halo 5 that we see, that we kind of like watched float away.
Ark. It was the perfect location for them to bolster their forces by looting and pillaging the abundance of extremely lethal foreign attack that was hidden within it. When they arrived, there were still some human research teams stationed there, but they didn't last long, and quickly Atriox and his mercenaries gained control of most of the installation. They went relatively undisturbed for a few months, using the Ark's power nodes to quickly teleport across the many arms and petals of the installation, looting artifacts and technology, and attempting to unlock its long-lost secrets, until March of 2559, when suddenly, mysteriously and out of nowhere, the UNSC's Spirit of Fire appeared above. Mendicant bias. After Atriox's first run in...
Mendicant bias? What? What's that? Maybe that's something I don't know about yet.
With the demons at the Henry Lamb Research Outpost, it became clear to him that he was in for a war like none his faction had yet fought. As Captain Cutter, Anders, Isabel, and Red Team entered a violent power struggle with the Banished, Decimus, Atriox's second-in-command and one of the founding members of the Banished, fell in battle. And soon after, Let Valir's enduring conviction, the only ship that Atriox brought to the Ark, and also the flagship of the Banished small yet powerful fleet, was quite literally beheaded by Sentinels. Again, the humans doing. Now stranded on the Ark.
Which someone was telling me about that Spartan. I forgot what his name is, but someone was telling me in the comments of the reaction in the last video that he's actually really interested and he's got some lore behind himself as well. I'd love to know about that Spartan. Love to know about him.
With no means of escape and his closest companions slaughtered, an even bigger problem presented itself. A human scientist, Ellen Anders, had managed to launch a Halo ring from the Ark's foundry. This ring was Installation 09, a replacement for Installation 08, which was the ring that Chief and Arbiter destroyed at the end of Halo 3, which in itself was a replacement for Installation 04 that Chief destroyed at the end of Halo Combat Evolved. Installation 04 has a very, very unlucky history. However, ignorant to the humans' true plan to send the Halo through a portal and use it to contact the rest of humanity to send for reinforcements, Atriox ordered Let Valir to use what forces he had left to prove he was still worth his price by seizing control of the ring. Initially, they were quite successful, but when Anders discovered how to eject a portion of the ring's surface into...
Which has got to be one of the coolest cutscenes in Halo history, right? She literally ejects part of the ring, which is such a cool idea.
Space. Well, what was looking to be a swift victory for the Banished soon became a swift defeat. When all of the shipmaster's troops were sent flying to a gruesome fate.
So cool.
Suffocating in the vacuum of space.
That's so cool.
With the Halo now firmly under human control, Anders sent it through the portal to call for reinforcements. But the Banished were not yet defeated. Far, far from it, in fact. Although, yes, the humans had dealt a crushing blow to their campaign, the war still raged on the surface of the Ark.
So, this is pretty much where we're at. Oh yeah, well, if you look at the thing at the bottom here is the end of Halo Wars 2 recap. So from here on out, which is less than half of the video, I don't know anything about the Banished, so I'm really excited for this.
And Atriox was not about to bow out anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
However, before we continue any further, you first need to be briefed on a crucial artifact the Banished discovered on the Ark that they plan to outfit their entire fighting force with. Only Section 3 currently believe them to be precursor in Origin, and so it should be of no surprise that they're also the sponsor of today's video, Raycon.
What?
That's right, even the most advanced species in galactic history favored the Raycon Everyday E25 earbuds. And how could they not, with their exceptional sound quality?
I'll get past this.
Is just as good, so sweet that even the Primordial is jealous.
Which,
right.
What is this I want to know more about these the kind of, you could say like the prequel to the Halo story, right? All these different alien species from back when the Forerunners were around and Mendicant bias and stuff like that. I want to know more about all that. I really do. So if you've got some recommendations for videos, guys, let me know in the comments, okay? Because I want to be as prepared as possible for Halo Infinite.
So, before we cover the skirmishes and events that took place in the post-Halo Ring yeeting portion of the Banished timeline, you first need to be briefed on the notable commanders of the Banished who rose through the ranks and made a name for themselves during the initial conflict on the Ark.
Okay.
Whom Captain Cutter has now identified as Banished HVTs. Firstly, we have the ultra-enigmatic Colony, a pair of Hunter Bond brothers who command all the Hunter and Lekgolo-based forces within the Banished. Now,
that's so cool, like two Hunters who end up being like bosses in themselves. That's really cool.
It's unknown whether they are a sort of representative of the Worms or some weird specialized command form. And honestly, I feel like that's something we're never going to know for sure. They're responsible
really cool.
in particular for the creation and expansion of Lekgolo clusters for use in things like vehicles like Scarabs, Caltrops, and other strange specialized use cases.
That's really cool.
There may be an ulterior motive to all of this. Rumor has it the Colony have their own plans for the Ark.
Interesting.
Unbeknownst to the other Banished leaders, much of their attention is currently focused on the resting places of the foreigner key ships.
Interesting.
Yap Yap the Destroyer, once a low-ranking deacon in the Covenant's Ministry of Sanitation, because apparently that's a thing, he participated in and actually survived the Battle of Reach, before eventually being kidnapped by the Banished. However, by avoiding eye contact when being selected for a job, and by being generally slower than other grunts, he managed to luck his way up the Banished ranks, rising up the chain of command at an almost alarming rate.
Amazing.
When he discovered what he refers to as the Throne of Woe, along with what was rumored to be the Prophet of Truth's crown that was left on the Ark, Yap Yap became drunk with power and began a rebellion against the Banished to allow him to begin his search for the fabled golden methane hydrate mines of Saboteur.
Interesting.
But shortly after, his Throne of Woe began communicating with him.
Interesting.
Also, he says, telling him that the Ark belongs to the Grunts and providing him with a seemingly infinite supply of Grunts to, quite literally, throw at his enemies. Genius. And finally, we have two brothers, Pavium and Voridus.
Okay.
Pavium the Unbreakable, a brute warlord, architect, and siege master, was one of the most revered leaders of the Banished. He earned the nickname Unbreakable because of his incredible combat engineering, something which Atriox capitalized on in abundance. Following their defeat on...
These mini-bosses are so interesting. Like, so interesting and very creative.
Installation 09, Pavium redoubled the efforts of both himself and his pack, something that did not go unnoticed by Atriox. Coming armed with heavy metal plating, an arm-mounted brute shot with an underslung blade, heavy defensive shield, and an almost Uruk-hai-reminiscent helmet, what Pavium has in offensive and defensive capability.
That's really cool.
He also has in architectural intelligence and ingenuity, equally as important and deadly.
That's really
and
cool.
Lastly, Voridus, the brother of Pavium, and the cause of most of his downfalls. However, don't let this trick you into believing that Voridus is a simple fool. No, 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 no. Quite the opposite.
That helmet's really cool.
After the Banished gained control of the Ark, he started researching several aspects of this alien installation. Notably, the energetic metamaterials that course throughout the Ark and act as its main source of power, which he later twisted and engineered into his own form of gruesome weaponry.
Interesting.
Fusion gel.
So they were like engineers, weren't they, really? They were engineers, which is really cool.
Leaves a dark, corrosive sludge in its wake, giving any in its vicinity horrific burns. Gifted with an incredible understanding of Forerunner tech, Voridus is surprisingly intelligent, far from a fool. His, and by extension his brother's pitfalls, come from his overconfidence. But it's not hard to see why he's so confident when you see the tools that he's packing.
Yeah.
On his left forearm, he wields a retractable wrist blade, similar in design to that of the Predators, which is capable of being fired at a velocity high enough to cut right through thick biomatter. In his right hand, he often carries a custom barbed gravity hammer, and for defense, like his brother, he wears thick, heavy metal plating.
So
and
cool.
Even carries some sort of metal rebreather for operations in biohazardous zones.
That helmet, it's like Iron Man kind of like style where it like all comes together in different pieces. It's so cool. So cool.
So now you've had the lowdown on the key members of the Banished, it's time to take a look at their campaigns that followed the initial war on the Ark.
Okay.
In April of 2559, mere days after Installation 09 left the Ark, the colony's fascination with foreigner ships led to a potentially monumental discovery. They discovered a design seed for an ancient foreigner ship, a Despair-class fighter that, roughly 100,000 years prior, formed part of Offensive Bias's naval armada that it used to finally defeat Mendicant Bias. This design seed allowed the colony to begin restoring a Despair, which they planned to launch directly into the Spirit of Fire and destroy it.
So I need to know what I need to know more about Mendicant Bias and all these other Forerunner things, don't I? And the wars that were happening back in the day. That's what I need to know about. Send me some videos, guys. I need to know.
However, their efforts were thwarted by a small UNSC force spearheaded by Sunray 1-1, one of the Spirit of Fire's elite teams of ODSTs. In the months following,
ODSTs.
the war on the Ark continued to rage on, with neither side really managing to gain any sort of advantage over the other. In a desperate attempt to end the stalemate once and for all, Atriox summoned both Pavium and Voridus and ordered them to scout the surroundings of the High Charity Quarantine Zone to scavenge any old Covenant supplies that may be laying around, but only the surroundings of the zone. He was very clear about not going into the zone. The last thing he needed was to unleash whatever the hell the Sentinels were keeping in there and start a two-front war. So, the two brothers deactivated the hostile Sentinel defenses that were guarding the quarantine zone and made their approach to the shield. However, Voridus's overconfidence got to him once again, and using one of his scarabs, he blew a gigantic hole in the quarantine shield and sent some of his boots inside to investigate. And in doing so, awoke the greatest nightmare the galaxy knows.
The flood.
His brutes were quickly consumed, and a massive horde of flood came pouring out the breach. A horde that had been slowly growing within the ruins for almost 7 years, and he was quickly overwhelmed. As Voridus and what little remained of his troops quickly retreated, Pavium set several lines of defenses, yet each one failed to hold the parasite back, and quickly even their fallback point was overrun. The two then came up with a plan of action. They would light the infusion gel beneath the Ark's surface and burn away the parasite. And so, Pavium constructed a great mining tool that could reach deep enough under the surface to spark the chain reaction. Luckily, their plan worked, which brought Voridus enough time to enter a foreigner installation known as the Archive, where he and a loyal elite honor guard managed to cut their way through the flood, all while woefully outnumbered, and reactivate the Sentinel defenses that they had earlier disabled that once protected the containment shield.
Well, that's cool.
He then learned...
But the flood's probably got out at this point, right? The flood's nasty. Nasty.
Of worrying, yet also positive news. Atriox was aware of the outbreak and had sent brute reinforcements to assist in quarantine efforts.
Yeah.
But he was not happy.
Yeah.
Forces had to be diverted away from the front lines of the war against the humans to clean up the mess his lieutenants had made. But very soon, they'd all be thankful for the support. In their efforts to clean up said mess, they discovered that the Flood had managed to construct a proto-gravemind that was nearing the size of a full gravemind. However, using one of Pavium's very own creations, the Mega Turret, along with extreme aggression from all forms of Banished warriors, the proto-gravemind was defeated and the Flood outbreak was contained.
They actually, they actually contained the Flood? That's pretty interesting.
Our struggle on the Ark reached any sort of conclusion following the awakening of the Flood is currently unknown, but almost 7 months after, it seems that Blue Team are going to run into a banished threat of some sort on Reach as a part of their mission to return to the ruins of Dr. Halsey's lab in what little is left of Castle Base in Shadows of Reach. According to the blurb of the book, what starts out as a simple asset retrieval mission for the Spartans soon explodes into a full-blown crisis, undoubtedly the doing of the Banished forces on the planet. Now, as to how the Banished possibly gain control of Reach, I have two theories. Number one, we know for a fact that not all of the Banished forces came to the Ark. Atriox's personal corvette, the Elegy's Lament, was never present. So, maybe Atriox trusted his own ship in command of some of his other lieutenants and sent them to secure Reach, a location which, much like the Ark, was bound to hold an abundance of equipment the Banished could utilize.
So the Banished have Reach? That's pretty crazy.
While he personally saw to securing the Ark. The Ark is a much more important location than Reach, after all. Or, number two, the war on the Ark between the Spirit of Fire and the Banished is somehow resolved following Awakening the Nightmare between early June and October of 2559, presumably resulting in Banished victory, and the Banished leave the Ark and go to Reach. But at the end of the day, who knows? I'm assuming we'll find out in Shadows of Reach, which, by the way, recently got delayed until October 20th.
Okay, but that's out now, so I need to know what happened in Shadows of Reach. I need to read that book.
There is always the slight chance that the ruthless and powerful alien faction mentioned in the book's description isn't the Banished, but come on, let's be real here. Ruthless and powerful are the two most fitting adjectives in the entire English language to describe the Banished. I would be baffled if it's not them. And given not only the abundance of Banished-looking Mega Constructs toy reveals in recent months, but also the fact that Shadows of Reach is kind of shaping up to be a sort of optional prelude to Halo Infinite.
Is it now?
Equally as baffled if they aren't in Halo Infinite in some capacity. Oh well, only a few weeks to go now until the big reveal, so I guess we'll know whether they are or aren't in the game.
Interesting.
But as for today, I think that just about does it. I want to give a huge thank you to Jonathan Elliott for becoming an iconic one over on the old Patreon.
Iconic one.
Very iconic indeed. Along with everybody else who continues to support me over there. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.
So firstly, go over to his channel and give him a like and all that good stuff. But I need to know what happens in Shadow of Reach, and if it does talk... What's going on over here with the green screen? Look at this. I need to know what goes on in Halos of Reach in case it is the Banished. So there must be some lore that came out when this video came out, which was... June 2020 through till when the game comes out, which is December 2021, right? There must be some more lore in there about the Banished because Atriox has had to move from the Ark to Zeta Halo. Is it Zeta Halo? I think that's what the name of it is. Maybe that's explained in Halo Infinite, but somewhere in between there's a possibility that he went to Reach and then he went to Zeta Halo, right? I think. Also, I really want to know more about all these ancient aliens that were back in the day, like not the Forerunners, the Mendicant Bias. Like, I want to know what all that's about. I don't know anything about that really, or at least I don't think I do, unless there's some in Halo 4. I know obviously we go against the main dude, the bad guy, but like that's it doesn't. I don't think it mentions Mendicant Biased. I want to know what that's all about. Let me know in the comments if there's some good recommended videos for that, and I'll certainly check that out, guys. All right, but for now, members, you're amazing, you're beautiful, I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for these beautiful members right here rolling down the screen. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I truly appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun playing video games with both the officers and the guardsmen. Links down below if you want to become a member. There's a join button, and you get put into a private Discord and get to have a good old Chin-Wag with me. It's a ton of fun. Other than that, there's links down below to all of my other stuff, my socials, and my 2 other YouTube channels, OriginalHuman Geek, where we play D&D, and OriginalAdventures, where me and my wife are converting a US school bus and traveling the United States. If you didn't check out the recent update, I did a live stream a couple days ago, showing around the bus and the conversion. I'm very excited for that, and we're actually hopefully moving in the next week or so, which is a ton of fun, and you'll see me recording on the bus for the first time. But when that happens, I'll be doing a full tour of the bus as well as a full tour of my setup on the bus, because I feel like a lot of people are confused about how that's going to work, and I figured it out, guys. It's going to be a ton of fun to show you that. Until the next video, which I'm hoping is Halo 5, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.